Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today, Masechtas Kiddushin Daf Chaf Aleph. We are going to begin on Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph, the third line from the top. Simin Charash Chavash Zman. We've been learning about the dinim of an Eved Ivri. Amr le Rav Acha Barei the Rebel Rav Ashi Ikol Mifrach. We can ask the following question: Malo Moicher Bayis Mabati Ari Chaima Shechein Hara Koichel Higol Oilum. So we were learning whether or not a person can be goyel chatzayin, and we established, as we saw in, for example, question TA 17, which really broke it down beautifully. We asked, when it comes to an Eved Ivri who is sold to an Akum, we said that ein goyel lechatzayin cannot be sold in halfway. Or cannot be redeemed halfway, rather. Person who sells an ancestral field, also in goyel chatzayin. Now, when it comes to selling an ancestral field, you actually have to wait 2 years to be able to redeem it, and then by Yova it will go back to the owner anyway. However, when it comes to being makdish a sada, so in that situation at Yovel, if you don't redeem it, it goes back not to you, but rather it goes to the Kohanim. So that's another major distinction. And then we mentioned by a moicher bias, bias be'ir chayma, you sell a house in a walled city. After 1 year, you can no longer get it back. So because of that, let's just can finish up with 17. If you're makdish stechuza goyel chatzayin, you could redeem half. However, when it comes to moicher bias batir chayma, so that is actually machlokas, as we saw in yesterday's daf, Rabban Roshim. So let's say it again. Ikul mefrach mal moicher bias batir chayma, a person who sells a house in a walled city, in which after 1 year you can no longer get it back. Shechein har koichay li goyel oilam. It's weak, because you don't have the ability to redeem it whenever you want. You don't have forever. You only have that 1 year. So, in that situation, there's an opinion that it could be goyel chatzayin. Tarma b'makdish. If a person is makdish stechuza, in that situation, shiava koichli goyel oilam, that you have the ability to redeem it. So maybe that's the reason why we're going to be more lenient when it comes to being makdish stechuza, as opposed to when it comes to bayis batir chayma. So Amrli Rav Acha Sabel Rav Ashi Mishum Dikol Mifrach Neder Dina Tesi B'Matzad. You can go back to the Tzad Shava Moicha Stechuza Yachiach. Now, when it comes to selling a stechuza, as we established, which is also not goyel chatzayin, shiafa koichai, even though its koyach is strongly goyel oilam. Right? The ain loy b'goyel chatzayin. So again, when it comes to stechuza, you do have an ability. So fine, the first 2 years you can't redeem it, but afterwards you can redeem it. Is continuous. There's no limit. You can redeem it 5 years later, 10 years later. So even though we're lenient when it comes to being able to be goyel, let's just use the language of the Gemara, oilam, you still cannot redeem it halfway. So we can't therefore say, so we see that clearly by stechuza, the fact that you have olam to redeem it doesn't mean that should be a reason why it should be goyel chatzayin. So too, when it comes to a situation of being makdish stechuza, the fact that you could be goyel oilam does not mean necessarily you should be able to goyel chatzayin there either. So where it says, yeah, but malo moicher stechuza shchen her kerchli go miyad. When it comes to stechuza, maybe the reason why it's not goyel chatzayin is because you can't redeem it right away. As we said, you have to wait 2 years to redeem it. So moicher bayis batir chayma yachiach. Then when it comes to redeeming a house that was sold in a walled city, you after 1 year you're not allowed to get it back, but you can redeem it right away. So we clearly say one has nothing to do with the other. they don't have similar characteristics. Again, when it comes to a stechuza, the din is you have to wait 2 years to redeem it. You can't redeem it right away, but you have time afterwards. When it comes to Moicha Bayis Batir Chaima, you can redeem it right away, which is a kula, but you only have 1 year. Afterwards, you can't get it back. So it has that stringency. So Hasada Shavash Mehen, what's their common denominator? Shini Golin, that there's a concept at some point you could redeem it. So just like when it comes to Hamaycha Bayis Batir Chaima, that you cannot be go chatzayin. So often when it comes to being makdish to stay chuza, so too shenigal vein lev chatzayin. So therefore, we're going to learn out from here that when it comes to again by a stay chuza, the din is by makdish stay chuza, the din is that ein nigoyin uchatzayin. Okay, even though again makdish stay fine. Fine. Even though again, what we end up saying on maskana that matas de'achuza is goyel chatzayin, but over here maybe it should not be. We should say maybe not. So I'm remember Rav Mari Ravina Igol Mifrach Malasada Shabashbahan. When it comes to these two characteristics, when it comes to being selling a ste'achuza or moicher ba'is batir chayma, shchein har koichel nigol b'shana shniya. There's an issue at year number 2, because again, when it comes to the ste'achuza, you cannot redeem it at year 2. First 2 years, no, only at year 3. When it comes to moicher ba'is batir chayma, you can redeem it at year 1, but no longer afterwards, not year 2. So both of them have a common denominator that you cannot redeem at year 2. So maybe that's why we're strict that you cannot be goel chatzayin. Tamber b'makdish, person's makdish ste'achuza, shiafik koicha legal b'shana shniya. Then you could redeem it on the 2nd year. So maybe also by makdish ste'achuza, the din is you can be goel chatzayin. Amavina mishav digla meimar eved ivri shenim hanim chalav chachavim yachiach. When it comes to a Jewish slave who's sold to another chachavim, we also said it's not goel chatzayin. Even though shiafik koicha legal b'shana shniya, you can redeem it at any time, even the 2nd year. So obviously that's not still the ain loy b'gavel chatzayin. So therefore again we see clearly that one does not have to do with the other. So too by makdish we see that the ability to redeem in the 2nd year is not a reason to be machalik if you could be goyel chatzayin, as we see by an eved. So it is a sada shava. We see umaskana. It is a machlokas by bati arichayma. Okay, question 10. Unless we did it already. Eved shenikna b'masayim v'huzul. Not sure why this is question 10. Okay, yeah, it helps out. Eved shenikna b'masayim v'huzul. He was worth 200 and went down in value. B'omad omez, now he's worth 100. But nasla chamishim, and he gave 50, which is half of his geula. Meshuv hooker b'omad al masayim. Right atal ligmer pidin l'atzeis kamal l'blases l'hashim igrein l'maskana. So again, when it comes to an eved, we hold in geula chatzayin. This halfway redemption doesn't help. The fact that now that the price has changed, you still have to pay the difference. So if you're moisef oid meya b'chamishim hashim kesef b'gnasav v'yoytzi. So again, maskana we see beferish over here that the din is that when it comes to an eved ivri hanim chabim in goyin l'chatzayin. Okay. Bamine Rav Huna Barchin number Rav Sheshes. Hamaycher ba'is b'batir chayma. A person who sells a house in a walled city, which again, after 1 year, you only have 1 year to redeem it. Nigel kroivim or eno nigel kroivim can be redeemed also by the relatives or not. Says Rashi, al karchay shalekeach kedashkan mesteachuza. So it can be done against his will. Just like when it comes to steachuza, it's again we said already it's not goyel chatzayin, but we could force the relatives to redeem. So too, when it comes to this selling of a walled city, a house in a walled city, the din also is that just like it's not goyel chatzayin, but we can force the kroivim to redeem it from the buyer. When we talk about redemption, b'chatzayin hu dichsiv, b'kroivim lo ksiv, has nothing to do with kroivim. Or malay enu nigol, enu nigol. Okay, so therefore that's the answer. It's not nigol kroivim. But the pasuk says b'chol geula titnu. It says with all redemptions it should take place. So Rabbos batim be'evid ivri. It's coming to include houses and an evid ivri, which is coming to include gulas kroivim. So my love, when it says batim, it's probably bati orechayma. It's referring to a walled city. We see that therefore there is a gulas kroivim. Lo bati chatzerim. When it comes to bati chatzerim, that's when there is such a din. Let's look at Rashi. B'chol geula titnu uv'chol eretz achuzaschem geula titnu aretz. So batei chatzerim, Rashi says, ayarosh ein mukafos chayma miyamos Yeshua. These are walls that are not surrounded, cities which are not surrounded by walls. So batei chatzerim behedik sibahu al stei haaretz yechashev. Says Rashi, har hein k'stei achuza. It's just like a stei achuza where there is geula b'kroivim. So why would the pasuk need to tell you that? Now, it's coming to say that there's an obligation. The second pasuk makes it's a chayv, an obligation on the relatives when it comes to bati chatzerim to redeem it, but maybe not when it comes to bati arichayma. The sign of a goyal eis mimchar achiv. So rishus then itself tells us that it's optional. If he has no relatives, how's a yid have no relatives? If you go all the way back, someone who's connected to Zer Yaakov, there's got to be someone he's related to. He does have relatives, but they don't want to buy it. So Rabbi Yeshua says, of course they do have relatives. He's just saying that it's not an obligation for them to do so. He says no. Actually, when it comes to this, there's an obligation for them to redeem it. So according to him, the machlokas, that actually when it comes to the din of batei chatzerim, the din is that you have a chiyuv as a relative to redeem it. Some say it was Rabbeinu Rabashi. The one who says it's coming to include Bati Orichaim, and the Chiddush is that relatives are obligated to redeem it. That's why it says B'chol, which is mashma in all situations. Kasha. Why does it say it 3 times? Rashi says, "Be'evid ivri hanimcha v'chachamim," by regarding a yid that is sold to an akum. So a rabbi's kol hagulos, when it comes to include, when it comes to all redemptions, shenigalos keseder hazeh, that it's supposed to be done in this particular order. So my love, but the Yorichaim of Evid Ivri, again, it says this 3 times, and it's probably coming to include Bati Orichaima and an Evid Ivri. Bati Chatzerim Ustechuza. Maybe it's just coming to include Bati Chatzerim Ustechuza, but again, we don't know when it comes to Bati Orichaima that there is this inyan of Geula's Kroivim. Okay, and when it said Rashi says, what do you mean Evid Ivri? We already know it's talking about Evid Ivri Hunimcha v'Chachavim. No, so Rashi says it's Rabbi's Evid Ivri Hunimcha Yisrael. The look sibi Geulas Kroivim, because it doesn't say the redemption of relatives by a person who is sold to a Yisrael. Fine. So that's what it means Evid Ivri and fine. But the Chatzerim, Milo Bade Rechem of Ebed Ivri, well, Bate Chatzerim Mustei Achuza. So Bate Chatzerim Mustei Achuza, Behediksiv, we already have a pasuk, I'll stay Aretz Yechashiv. Kidiyam Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, L'karoiv, Karoiv Koidem, Hachanami L'karoiv, karav kaidim. Says Rashi, the parish dai boresha v'yimin loy dai ben daida v'ilah mishar pesaro. It means who is the first person who is obligated, the one who is closest in relation to you. So when did he say this elsewhere? On the following, the Iboilu. Evidently sold to Yisrael, which again it's not mentioned anything about Gulas Kraivim, only it says it by Nimchar La'akum. Nigel Kraivim and Nigel Kraivim. Aliba de Rabbi lo Tiboilach. According to him, it's not a kasha. Someone who's not redeemed with Elo, which is with Kraivim, Nigel B'Sheish. Alma Ul Mifrak. So we see clearly he's not redeemed. It says Rashi Alma Svirli the Nigel B'Kraivim. Because it says Misha Eno Nigel Be'ela Nigel B'Sheish, which is clearly that we don't force the Kraivim to have to do it. Dokiti Boil Chaliv Rabbanan, my. Yalfin and Sacher V'lo Darshi Yigalenu, Odim Yigalenu Lazeb L'L Acher. Tashma. B'chol Gula Titnu, Rabos Batim Eved Ivri, Ma'la Batiri Chayma, the Eved Ivri, Nemach Yisrael, Lo Eved Ivri, Hanemach Lev Chachavim. So again, it's flipping it here. We're saying no, it's maybe only coming to include an Eved Ivri who's Nemach Lev Chachavim, in which that's a double pasuk because the pasuk says it. So Eved Ivri, Hanemach Lev Chachavim, Behedya again Ksibbe. It's already explicit in the pasuk. Ododo ben Daidi Galenu. So we already know that there's a din of Gulas Kraivim when it comes to that. So the Gemara continues on Chav Alpam Beis, Tahulu Kabachayim Fil Rabbi Yeshua. That even according to Rabbi Yeshua, he agrees that it's a chiyuv. Says Rashi, why? Delo Yitama B'Ev Kachavim. That we don't want him to be commingling together with Ev Kachavim, and therefore that's why everyone agrees to this. Question 11. Be'ez Gulas Kraivim. Everyone holds as a chayv when it comes to an Eved Ivri who's sold to an akum sheyatama b'Eved Kachavim. Everyone agrees to that. When it comes to an Eved Ivri nimchal Yisrael, not so pashut. When it comes to Bati Erichayma, we still don't see. Tashma matam whenever going to gimel pamim. Twice say 3 times. Around kol ha'geulos, all the times we redeem shenigos kaseder hazet. It's supposed to be done in this particular order of those who are closest in relation. So my love, Bati Orichayma, Eved Ivri Hanimcha Yisrael. So again, so that's actually we're not sure about both of them. So when it says lo Bati Chatzerim Ustechuza. Bati Chatzerim Behedik Sibuhu, it already says I'll stay Aris Yachashev, so Yitzchak, the Karav Kaidam. So therefore this is the source of the Karav Kaidam, the closest relatives first. Okay, Hanirtzem. Okay, Hanirtze Nikne Beritzia. So you have this Eved Ivri. He's supposed to work for 6 years, but then if he wants, he can decide that he's going to want to stay extra, and he gets something happens to his ear. We'll discuss it soon, and he stays there until Yovel. That's what happens. He gets his ear pierced with an awl, AWL. Even he will go free either by Yovel or when his master dies. So it says that you work for him, but you're not going to work for his children once he dies. And that's it. Once it's Yovel, you're free. Tanabana. Martseya. It says you're supposed to use this instrument. Ainli elo martseya, but now the rabos hat soil. Hano can come and include a piece of wood. V'hasir or a thorn, v'machat, or like a needle, v'mekadeach, an iron tool, v'machtev, or some writing implement of sorts that engraves. Talmud loyim rebel kachta. You shall take it. Or Rambam's called ever shenikach. Biyad Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Hud. Anything you can take in your hands. Rabbi Omer Mamart say Mayuchid Shel Matachas Av Kol Shel Matachas. So he says it has to be somewhat like this awl, and it has to be of metal. Davaracher Hamartseya Lahavi come to include Hamartseya God Hagadol, this great Martseya. So Omer Rabbi Lezer Yudan Beribi Hayadarish Kishahin Reitzin. in roitzim ela b'milta, that when they would pierce the ear, they would only do it by the milta, which is the earlobe. The Chachamim omrim ein eved ivri kayin nirtzim neshenasa balmum. When it comes to a kayin, if he's an eved ivri, he cannot become, he's not allowed to become a nirtza, because he ends up happening, he's going to become a balmum with his piercing. If you want to actually tell me it's through the earlobe, that doesn't make a person a balmum, right? That's something which can grow back. He actually holds that's not true, that you actually have to pierce at the top of the ear. So, the Rabbi Darsh Kal Prati, what is his drasha? The pasuk says, "Well, kachta, you just take anything." Klal, might say a specific a prat, but oznai in the ear, videlas in the specific places, these certain places. Chazar kol part of klal. You have to then look at a prat. Ma prat maforsh. When it comes to the prat, it shall mateches that this all is made out of metal. Av kol shall mateches. B'yosi darsh ribui miyuti v'lakachta takes something as ribui. Martseya specifically is a miyut, but ozno v'delas, basically an ear or a door. Chazav v'riba umiyut v'riba hakoil. That includes everything. My Rabbi called mili everything. And my miyut just one thing, miyut some type of like acid that burns makes a hole. Okay. Amar Martseya Havi Martseya Hagadol, this great all. My mashma, Kidi Amarava Hayarich, the thigh, which is Hamu Menes Shibiarech, the right one. Hachanami Hamartseya Mayuchid Shibimartseyin, the one which like a distinct all among other alls. Question 12. Barata Doinavas does number Martseya, Maba Lamayat Hakasiv Martseya, Lamandidarish Kal Prati, Lamandidarish Ribu Muti. So if you hold Klal Prat, it's just coming, it has to be Shal Matechas, has to be of metal. Anything which is not metal is not good, or it's really Rabbi Kol Mili, it's just coming to exclude Tsam, this type of medication of sorts. Okay. Exact same question, TB19. So let's just mark this down. Okay. Martseya davka shel matechas orak lo sam, acid liquid medicine. That's what I wrote. Okay, that's TB19. All right. Okay, weiter. 2 dots. Amar Belazar Yudin Baribi Hayadarish Kishahin Roitzin and Roitzin Ela Bimilta. Again, when they would pierce the ear, it would be by the bottom of the earlobe. And every kind near to Shanasa Balmum. Again, he's going to be a Balmum because it's at the top of the ear. So if he has a Balmum, who cares? So he's a Balmum. What's the difference? So Amarav Barav Shil Amakra, the pasuk says of Shavel Mishpachtai, that he should eventually go back to his family. Which means he should go back to the same status of him being able to do what is necessary as before. Fine. It says Rashi, so let him do it. The answer is that he has to be returned as he was, without a mum. So what's the din? Do we allow, if he's a kohen, could he be given a shivcha chananas? So chidushu lo shna kohanim lo shna Yisrael, we just allow it. There's no reason to think that Yisrael should be allowed, but we allow, and every to marry a shivcha chananas, so that's a chidush. So maybe a kohen also is allowed. Odilma shani kohanim will have a ribahen hakosim mitzvahs yiseris. They have so many more mitzvahs, so maybe we're more strict. Rabbi Mermuter Shmuel Aimer Aser. So we have a machlokas. Amar Rav Nachman and Rabbi Anan. Kavisu Beimar Shmuel He's over there. Biskum dure italisu. You should. He's playing games, says Rashi. Lo hetesam leiv ladaktik b'shmaischem. He's not putting his effort to focus on the sugyas. Ela k'masachakim b'pispasin. It's like he's playing some type of a game. My timer. Lo termule maha. Why did you just say the raya poshit is that a kohen cannot be a nirtza because he's going to be a balmum? So the im terms are in Rabbi Meisel Shulchanainis. So if you want to tell me that he cannot be given a shulchananis, typically the ina or havdias dadinas ishti vesbonai v'leika v'sulo midi. In order to become a nirtza, he has to say, "I love my wife," which is referring to his shulchananis. So if in fact you hold that he cannot have a shulchananis, so then that's an obvious reason he can't be a nirtza, because he can't say ohavdias ishti. So it must be that the din is clear from that just like he's not allowed to take if he's allowed to have a shivchananis, it must be he's allowed to have a shivchananis, because the fact is, why is he telling me the reason why he cannot being a nirtza is because it's going to be a balmum? It's a bigger problem. He doesn't have a shivchananis. He can't. It only applies dafka if he has a wife. Okay, v'sulay midi. Iboilu koyin mahu b'yafas toyer. What is the din? Is a koyin? This is going to end up being TA 18. Do we allow a kohen to take a yafas toar, which is found in Parsha Kiseitze? So you find in this Yifas Tayar, so we're lenient there by Yisrael, so we'll be by Kohen. So Rabbi Omer, Moter Shmuel Omer, Aser. So again, we have this machlokus between Rav and Shmuel. And again, Rav is lenient, and again, Shmuel is strict. Now, Babiri Shaina, the Kol Yamal Plagi the Shari. A kohen is allowed to take her for the first biyah. There's no shaila regarding that. There's really nothing you can do. After all, as Rashi quotes this as well in Chumash, the Lord dibratar el keneged yitzhahara. The Torah speaks only opposite the yitzhahara, so which means he can't control himself. So how can we answer him? Ki plagi b'biyah shniya. The question is afterwards: is he allowed to continue with her? So Rav Omer Moter Shmuel Omer Aser. So you have this malchokas. Rav Omer Moter Hoyel Vishtari Ishtari. Once she's mutter, she's mutter. The first time, so we're going to matter afterwards. Shmuel Omer Aser. The Havi lo Gyaris. She's like a convert. The Gyaris a kohen lo chazia, because a convert is not fit to a kohen. Ikadami, some say it differently. Biyah shniya komo pligidi asira. When it comes to the second biyah Aser, to have lo Gyaris, so there's no reason to ever think that he would be able to be with her afterwards. Rav says, okay, fine, we'll be lenient. The whole will dibratar connected to Sahara. Shmuel Omer Aser. Why? You should bring it to your house. In other words, she's not shaykh to be brought into your house. So therefore, we don't apply the first part either. Okay. So the answer is either everyone holds, but be rishon's mutter because they were connected to hara. When it comes to bia shnia is machlokas, or the machlok. When it comes to the bia shnia, is no question it's not allowed because she's like a yairus. The machlokas is by the first one. Tanaban. You see among the captives bishas shivya means dafka while you're in. There's this gathering of those who are in captivity. Eishas, v'afil eishas ish, even if she's a married woman, yafas tayer, lo dibratar can I get tahara, motiv shaykh yisrael basar, better that you should eat meat. As we continue chaf beis amud, which is temusais, literally a dying animal, shachutais, and slaughter it v'al yochel basar temusais nevelos, and then not to eat it while it's already in nevela. So even though it's not such a great thing that you're doing, but better than waiting, because if you wait, it's going to be even worse. Things will be worse. So we might as well just mock you right away. You have a desire to her, but even though she's not so attractive to you, so it says she'enu no, not her and her friends. Says Rashi, you can't get greedy over here. You can only take one. That there's like a lekuchen and it's like a Kiddushin typhus regarding this. Even though she was an Avetz Chachavim, doesn't, and she didn't really convert entirely with her own consent. You can't take one for you, one for your father. One for you, one for your son. Bring to her house. So, which means you should lavoy oleha, says Rashi. That's what Rashi says. So we're going to Taisus. Taisus says, Perishakun is lavoy oleha, to be with her. Mashma b'taich perusho, the memacham also lavoy oleha. It sounds like you can't have beer with her at all during on the battlefield. Until she cries for 30 days. The tema in Kain Mat Kaimer will give it to her. What does that mean? She's ushered to you until she comes to your house. Until after all these things. How does that calm down your Yitzhahara? You still have this Yitzhahara for this whole month. So you skip all the way down to the spot and Tosis. Rav Omer will hit their elabir rishayna. Okay, so in conclusion, my Rosh Hashiva Rabbi Yochanan Zweig says that perhaps it's to explain Rashi. The Torah is keneged the Yitzhahara. In other words, we say it will be mutter a little later on, and by the time you get to that stage, your desire for her will be gone. But if we answer her completely, he'll take her now. And therefore, that's we're going to see. This is also going to be like Pshat and Daf Mem when it comes to a person who wants to do an Aveira. He says, go to another city and do the sin. It's not that we're telling you should go sin, but by the time you get there, you're going to be like, forget it. It's not something which is really kedai for me anymore. So lo dibur Torah el keneged Yitzhahara means the Torah speaks, so you should go keneged the Yitzhahara. You should fight the Yitzhahara so that you're not going to end up doing any Averas. Okay. Adkan.